All right. Well, hey everybody, Kirk Anderson here with the Rotary E-Club of 5960, and today we have a very special guest coming to speak to us from the Rotaract Club in the Twin Cities. And I want to just welcome Michelle Jacobson to our E-Club. She's going to be doing a presentation, so make sure you take opportunity to watch the video because she has a great slideshow, and we'll have questions at the end. So Michelle, welcome and take it away.
Thanks guys. So I'm here to present about two Rotary initiatives that I'm sure all of you have heard about, but it's always good to hear about someone's personal experience with these programs. So Fast for Hope, specifically in Nicaragua. I know they've been involved in other countries, but I went on the Nicaragua delegation, and also the Rotary Friendship Exchange to India. All right, next. So I just wanted to give you some background about Nicaragua. It is located in Central America, neighboring Honduras and Costa Rica. Next slide. We were working with a district in the city of Masaya, so you can see the arrow there on the map. It's been a while, but I believe it's in the state of Managua, which is the capital of the country. All right, next. So just a few background pieces of information about why Fast for Hope decided to work in Nicaragua. It's one of the poorer countries. Actually, I think it's more than 30%. I think that statistic is a lot more now, but a lot of people are living on less than $2 a day to feed their whole families. Next. And this is true in rural communities. And like half or more than half of the population is considered to be in poverty. Next. Next. Okay, so a lot of people don't know that it's actually the second poorest country after Haiti in the Western Hemisphere. And there's a lot of factors of why Nicaragua is so poor, which I will kind of talk about in the next slides. So Fast for Hope, I believe, was started in 2010 as this new way of doing projects, because for many years, Rotary has focused on so many good projects, but Fast for Hope wanted to do things a little bit differently. So you can just click a few times, one more time. So kind of the philosophy behind Fast for Hope is that instead of putting the focus on an organization doing something for a recipient, it's spun the other way around. Fast for Hope, the committee that started it, believes that the local community where the project would be taking place, they know what's best for themselves, not the person doing the project. And in order for these projects to be successful, the recipient community needs to have full ownership of that process. So these are a few of the beliefs behind the Fast for Hope initiative. And in the picture, on the left is our delegation. Fast for Hope had many delegations to Nicaragua. I was just a part of one, and we had 6 members from our district. And then in the second photo, you can see us interacting with one of the members. I believe she is not in the Rotary. I believe she was one of the partnering nonprofits with our initiative. All right, next. All right, you can click a few times. Okay, so basically what Fast for Hope has been doing since their infancy about 10 years ago is they are focusing on multiple needs in a very limited amount of communities. So in the case of Nicaragua, they selected one community, just one, but they attacked or approached the issues in that community with from kind of a multi viewpoints. So there are multiple needs in one community that should be addressed together because all of these things are interconnected. Fast for Hope is hoping that this new model of doing projects is going to be replicated for other organizations. And in the photos you can see the left one is we were communicating or have meeting regularly with one of the some members of the chosen community. And on the right is one of those communities, and we were having a brainstorming session with them. Next. All right, so yeah, you can actually do like 5 clicks. All right, that's good. Okay, so the whole philosophy behind Fast for Hope, as I mentioned, is trying to do things a different way. There's kind of an old model and then a new model. So the old model, the old way of doing projects might have been characterized by these things. So it's an old way of doing it would be a group of people, it could be a Rotary group or even a church group, deciding the project, not the recipient deciding. It's also very dependent. It creates a feeling of dependency on the host group. Short-term projects don't always have follow-ups or revisits to communities. And sometimes these like church groups who follow this old model, they just focus on doing a very small project and then they're done. And it requires less planning on their end, but it's not as effective. All right, so you can do 4 more clicks. One more. Okay, perfect. So Rotary has really shifted a lot to this new model of doing things where the local community is deciding what is required. That does not create a culture of dependence on the giving organization. It focuses on relationships and on a long-term view. And like I said, this is going to take all these issues that are interconnected and address them at the same time. It requires a lot more planning and it takes more time, but it's more sustainable in the end. Next. So I just put this slide on here as a reminder of projects they can be very beneficial, but sometimes if they're approached in the wrong way, they can do more damage than good. So as I mentioned, this holistic way of viewing like working in a rural community, it's really a holistic approach. So this was a photo that summed it up. One way you could look at a need in a community is through the eyes of an environmental, social, and economic viewpoint, and where do they all interlap? And that's the type of multiple viewpoints we need when addressing needs in a community. Next. All right, so many of you may have heard of this book called The White Man's Burden, and it's a really good book, and I wanted to share a few quotes with you from that book. So you can click 2 times, actually 3 times. All right, so the first quote it's a metaphor for how people in the old model, how they used to work in developing countries. So if this developing country is kind of in a hole, they can't get out of the hole so easily. One way to get out of the hole is for them to be less dependent on others. William Easterly was quoted, "Aid cannot achieve the end of poverty. If you want to end poverty, it has to come from the individuals themselves in that community have to initiate it from their end." And the second quote is really, really eye-opening. Many countries have spent money on philanthropy and charitable organizations, $2.3 trillion at the time this book was written. but still many communities are not getting what they need. So obviously there is a need for a new way of doing things. And that's how Fast for Hope was birthed. So you can go to the next slide. So I wanted to, you can click 3 times. One more. All right. So as I mentioned, I was, so I went with Lindy, and then I also went a second time. So I was able to do 2 trips with this initiative. One of them was in March of 2011. I believe it actually was just for 1 week, not for 2 weeks. So it's not a very big time commitment. We were graciously hosted by a few people. So our partnering Rotary Club was Messiah Rotary. And that's important to note because when we're doing work in another country, it's important to have a partnering local club to work with. So that was Messiah Rotary. And then after about a year of strategic planning, AKF was decided as the partnering nonprofit. So we had a few different nonprofits, Messiah Rotary and then AKF. I think it stands for Asociación de Kairos Foundation. It's a nonprofit that works in Messiah. Here in the pictures, you can see the left one, Lindy, you might recognize that man. He was our host father. So my host family, actually all of the host families on this delegation at this particular site were farmers. And here I am in the banana farm. And in the second photo, it is me handing out some baby blankets to one of the members of the local community. All right, next. Oh, okay. So as part of this delegation with Fast for Hope, you do learn about the community that they have chosen to work with. But as part of the educational piece of a delegation is touring other nonprofits. And that part was especially eye-opening. It was really fun to see what Fast for Hope was doing, but also it was really important to learn about other successful nonprofits, some foreign, some local, in Nicaragua as well, and to see like what their models were and how they were approaching issues in the community. So it was, I don't remember exactly how many nonprofits we toured, but it was like 1 a day. So it was maybe like 5 or 6 that we had toured. Here's some photos of our activities in our delegation. On the left photo, we had toured a school, and we had just talked about what Fast for Hope was doing and kind of spreading awareness of the initiative. The picture on the right is it's a co-op of women potters who actually, from beginning to end, they create all of their own pottery and utensils and bowls. They even collected money to have the oven to bake them in. Like, they're a very successful group of women. And so we had toured their initiative while we were there. All right, next. So yeah, as I mentioned, the school that we had worked with, you see every place that we had toured in this trip, that we were welcomed so graciously by people. And we had organized some activities with the kids at the school where we were speaking at. And so that's a picture of the kids. One of the days we were able to kind of have a shopping excursion time and at the same time learn how to make pottery. So that middle picture is myself trying to make a bowl. And it's, I had mentioned that co-op of women who actually makes bowls for a living, and it's not easy to do, but we got to try it out. And then in the third picture is members of my delegation, and we were visiting a coffee farm, a very successful coffee farm, and we had helped them out. Next. As I mentioned, the coffee farm, there's more photos of that. It was just really eye-opening to see like how local farmers had even, you know, apart from Fast for Hope, just to see how other groups are approaching issues in their community. So these co-op of men had started this co-op to grow beans, and they were able to establish the price of the coffee beans that was fair and equitable. So that was really inspiring to visit the coffee farm. And then the picture on the far left is actually one of our meetings with Messiah Rotary. As I mentioned, they were our partnering Rotary Club in the country itself. So they were very integral to, you know, facilitate and carry out all of these needs that we had for this project. Next. So if you guys are curious about Fast for Hope, there's actually a lot of really good information on the website. I covered a sliver of what Fast for Hope really means. 2 more clicks. So if you go to the Fast for Hope district website, you will see a recommended reading list about how to address systemic poverty. And there's about 10 books on there, and I would recommend reading any of them. If you would like to learn about this nonprofit AKF, which is the other NGO that we had worked with in Nicaragua, you can read about them and what they are doing. All right, so Friendship Exchange is a very different program than Fast for Hope. Whereas Fast for Hope was addressing the systemic poverty, Friendship Exchange is what it sounds like. It's a bunch of friends in Rotary who do an exchange. Basically, adults, actually, I was invited as a Rotaractor, which was really cool. I was the only Rotaractor in my group. You exchange districts, not at the same time, but at different times. So one district will host you, and then a few months later, the other district will host. Next. Basically, the whole point of a friendship exchange, I don't know if any of you have gone on any of them, but they're really fun. It's just cultural awareness and spreading goodwill. That is the whole purpose of a friendship exchange. And one thing that I think sets this friendship exchange apart from a normal exchange is that you stay with a lot of different host families. And this is really important to remember when you do an exchange, because if you just stay with one family, you might get this impression that the culture is like them. But when you stay with a diverse number and types of families, you realize that there's so much more to the culture because every family is different. You can click like 2 more times. That's good. So culture is not defined by one family. And that's why Rotary was very smart when they developed this program. I think we had 10 different host families for our group. And it was a 2-week trip in January of 2016. Okay, so if you happen to do a friendship exchange and you see the itinerary does not include a place that you originally wanted to visit, like our itinerary that they had put together didn't include the Taj Mahal. So we just organized ourselves for a little side trip. So that was really special. All right, so I just wanted to give you an idea of where my friendship exchange was, because some of you are visual learners here. It was in India, and the state was Maharashtra, and the district was 3030. Maharashtra is one of the largest states in the whole country. So why should you participate in friendship exchange? Well, I'm sure all of you have or know someone who has done it. They're really short term. As I mentioned, only 2 weeks. So if you can spare 10 days of, if you can get some vacation days, I highly recommend it. Unlike some other programs, I think there's a program called the New Generation Service Exchange Program. I'm not sure what our district calls it, but those programs focus more on vocational skills. But the Friendship Exchange is very different. Anyone from any field can really sign up for it. it is a really, really, really good way to see the culture of a country, because these host families that you stay with, they have planned the most beautiful and exciting itinerary that you could imagine. And they take on all the costs. They're very, very gracious, and they just have a fun time showing you around. All right, next. Just a few requirements if you want to do an exchange, or you want to promote this to someone who's new to Rotary and kind of introduce them to the Friendship Exchange. Our team had to make a presentation of our Rotary district and our culture, because like I said, Friendship Exchange is two-way. It's not just them showing us their culture, we were also showing them our culture. So every Rotary Club that we visited, we had to give our presentation. So we had that made in advance. One cool thing that I think this is true of most exchanges is, you give host gifts, and the families are really excited to, receive that gift. And the culture is in India that the host families also give you a gift. So it was really nice. We were only responsible for visa, passport, plane ticket, and spending money. Really, all of the other expenses were brought on by the host families from that district. However, when that district comes to, like, let's say 5960 did it, when they came to our district, we were responsible for the cost to host them. All right, next. So I just wanted to share a few photos. There's our team. As you can see, I'm the only Rotaractor. I had wished there were more representation of Rotaractors, but it was fine. I was happy to represent Rotaractors everywhere. And we had 7 other Rotarians. I think a few were from Rochester. I don't know if you recognize Ted on the end. He's in the Roseville Rotary. It was actually a really, really fun group. Every Rotary meeting that we attended, every host family that we stayed with, they greeted us as per their cultural tradition. So in India, what you do is you bless someone by putting a special color on their forehead. So here's this lady blessing me and welcoming me to her Rotary Club. And India is really into, Indians love to give like little plaques. And, in Rotary, I know we exchange the flags, but this is a picture of one of the Rotary Club members and myself. And we had just finished our presentation to them, and they are gifting us with a little plaque about their club. So there's a website where you can read more. I'm not sure where the next Friendship Exchange is. I'm not even, I hope this program is continuing, but I had gotten that off of the website. So check it out. And that's it. It was pretty short and sweet. So I'd welcome it and open it to any questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for presenting. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask or comments to point towards Michelle?
Actually, I have a question for Paul. Based on what Michelle just presented, are friendship exchanges happening with 5960?
There's nothing active right now. I don't think we've had anything the last probably 3 years. We've kind of moved to a group cultural exchange, which last year was to Germany. And those Germans are supposed to be coming because there were some health issues. So they haven't come over here. They're supposed to be coming over here for the Conference of Clubs for 10 days. So that's what we have going on now. I'm not sure what Ed is planning, Ed Merrick, district governor-elect, if he's planning on a cultural exchange or if he's going to do a friendship exchange. And I don't know that there's really a difference between those two. They're not vocational, like a vocational training team or the group study exchange where they were non-Rotarians with a Rotarian team lead that went and then also hosted back here. So it's different than that. It is more cultural, like the friendship exchanges.
The friendship exchange, it has such appeal to me. I think it'd be so much fun to go on.
Yes, I think Sandy Campbell from Anoka, she was the one who was coordinating those, and that was probably 3 or 4 years ago. So, and then we kind of moved to this group cultural exchange, which we've been doing
They both sound great.
2 years. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, good. Nice presentation. Thank you.
I have a question for Michelle, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, you said that the Fast for Hope was going back and visiting the same village multiple times. What did they achieve? What did they do? And
So
how
they're
kept it back?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was looking through some old information when Ed Merrick was the chair at the time when I went. I had received this document that I was actually just quickly reviewed before our meeting today. There's a timeline here that I can kind of review. They started in 2010, and they did. I think it, like I said, it took just 1 year to decide the community that they would work with. Since then, they've probably been back at least. Let's see. I went in 2011. I don't know the exact amount, and I know there's still. Did I lose you guys? Or oh, sorry, I lost my audio or visual here. Anyways, I don't know the exact amount. The chairperson also used to be Ed Newman. He would be the person, or Ed Merrick, to reach out and ask that. I believe we're still like active with this one community, but I haven't heard any recent updates about like where we're at. The community has been decided. I believe some projects have been there was a big, actually almost a year's worth of brainstorming just to determine the projects in the community. Where they stand with those projects, I am not sure. So you would have to go to the website to get more information, because it's been like 9 years since I went. So I'm actually curious to know as well where they're at.
I know when we were there, some of the things they were looking at were a community of loomers, a community of potters, a women's community of organic shade-grown coffee growers. I mean, so there was a bunch of things that people could do to be more sustainable versus having, I'd mentioned this in an earlier meeting, but like, for example, a blue jean company would come in, hire everybody in the community, and then they'd get a lower price in another country and move out, and the whole community would lose all of their jobs. So this is a way for people to create a culture and economic system together. And they were looking at what was working for other communities and how they could implement that with their skills and their geography and everything around them.
Yeah, and I remember too, I had given a presentation about Fast for Hope right after I got back from the delegation. And one of the questions that someone asked was like, they wanted to know like, what's the updates? Where are we? And I think it was hard for people to wrap their head around that we hadn't actually, this was back in 2011. It was hard for some Rotarians to hear that the projects hadn't been started yet, and why did it take so long to even decide the projects? And so, yeah, it's really a very, very, very long-term view, and like a project could start, but it could take even 5 years to get that project up and running on its own. So, yeah, I would, just go to the website and reach out to the chairperson, because I think they'll have a better view of what are the specific projects that they decided on.
This is Paul. This morning, Kathy sent out an email. It's Rick Heidick. He's the new chairperson
Oh,
for the,
perfect. Okay,
he kind of took over for Dave Newman. Uh,
good.
but she just sent out something, and they're looking to give updates. And so this would be good for a future meeting to have Rick or Dave come in and give that update. I know they're looking at, besides what they're doing in the community, they're looking at partnering with another organization, Opportunity International, and
Oh,
still
okay.
doing it in Nicaragua. And so there's new possibilities for helping. This is more for like microfinancing. So, but it'd be
Mm.
great to get an update from them.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really important because we've really been invested in Nicaragua for a decade now. You know, a whole 10 years is a lot of time. So, yeah, I'm also very excited to hear what's been happening with them.
Well, I think that the idea for a lot of people of investing money without seeing like immediate results is hard for them
It's,
to grasp.
yeah,
It's,
yes.
so a lot of times we're known for water and sewage and things like that. Uh, Rotary clubs would send money over to put wells in, for instance, and that well would work for a while and the community would use it, but they didn't invest in that community. They didn't invest in it themselves. And so when the well broke, unless there was a club that was willing to come fix it, a lot of times the wells just sat and they went back to the old way of doing things. And that process didn't work very well. And so this whole concept of community buy-in and asking them what they need to be successful as a community and how we can come alongside them and help them out is it's not a it's a newer concept, and it hasn't got the traction that you would think it would, because people like to feel like they, you know, like it was successful. You know, in the 10 days that I was there, we built the wall, or we, you know, put the roof on the church, or whatever they're doing, the hospital. And because it doesn't have that quick dopamine, then they just don't get it. And so it's been probably a bit of a challenge. I know when we had a speaker come to our club, probably 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago, a lot of people were like asking that question, well, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? And the answer wasn't as easy as what did you do? It was, what are we doing, and how are we building those relationships?
Yeah,
So it is an investment of time and money and energy, and it's not a quick fix. So it's very,
definitely.
yeah. Well, any other questions for our speaker? All right. Well, I want to thank you, Michelle, for taking the time to be here, and thank you, Lindy, for inviting her. As always, we're looking for additional speakers. So if you have someone who you'd like to have their story shared, and they're able to either pre-record it or do it live like this worked out really well. We invite you to just let myself or John know, and we'll schedule that so that we can share other stories like that. And it doesn't have to just be youth exchange. This was something a little bit different, and so it just along the themes of some type of an exchange or some relationship building type thing is what we're looking for. And if you have something completely unique, that's fine too. We're not closed to anything. So with that, thank you so much, Michelle. We'll stick around afterwards, but I'm going to hit stop. And again, Michelle, how do people find more information about your club, the Rotaract?
Oh yeah, tcrotaract.org.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, and just hang on. I'm going to hit the end recording, and then we'll just have a few more thoughts.
Thank you, Michelle.